The story of Van Cat Goddess or Princess Lieu. Princess Lieu or Princess Queen Nun. In an high village, Van Cat Commune, Thien Ban District, Sun Nam Ha, now Vu Ban District, Ha Nam Ninh Province, there is Mr. La Tai Kong and his wife who are very virtuous and often do good things. They had a son. In the year of Thien Hu, during the reign of King La An Tong, his pregnant wife was past her due date but did not go into labor, did not eat or drink anything, and only liked the scent of flowers. The family continued to worship and still could not recover. That night, La Tai Kong dreamed that he was led into a magnificent palace, where hundreds of gods were holding a ceremony to wish the Jade Emperor's longevity. A lady in a pink shirt brought out a wine tray and accidentally dropped the jade cup. Angry, punished and banished to the human world. La Tai Kong asked about the athletes next to him and found out that they were the fairy princess Queen Nun, the youngest daughter of the Jade Emperor, with a stubborn personality. He was about to ask something else when someone came out and scolded the mandarin guarding the door. How dare he let a stranger in? The athlete quickly pushed him away. When he woke up, his wife gave birth to a daughter. Remembering his dream, he named his child Jiang Tian. As the days passed, Jiang Tian grew more and more beautiful. The female worker was proficient in everything, and her talent in writing, poetry, and playing music was also superior to others. Many people asked, but Mr. and Mrs. La Tai Kong did not accept anyone's answer. A few miles from Van Cat Village is Tien Hong Village. Tai Kong had a friend named Tran there. Tran Kong and his wife are also old and have no children. One night, Tran Kong caught a baby lying under a peach tree, brought him home, and named him Dao Lang. Growing up, Dao Lang was also a smart and handsome guy. Mr. Le and Tran discussed the agreement to get married. Not long after, Jiang Tian and Du Lang got married. Returning to her husband's house, Jiang Tian lives and behaves worthy of a dutiful wife. In 3 years, she gave birth to a boy and a girl, then suddenly on March 3, she passed away without any illness, only 21 years old. Both families mourned and mourned, but there was no way to save. Jiang Tian returned to heaven, but his heart was restless. During the happy fairies, she still silently wiped away her tears, missed her husband, and loved her children. The Jade Emperor understood the situation and immediately called her back to change her name to Liu Han and let her return to Earth. She returned home just on the anniversary of her death. Everyone was surprised. Liu Han hugged her mother and cried, telling the truth that she was a member of the groom's family. The deadline had passed, and now she was able to return to Earth, but she couldn't live like a mortal. Time before. After that, she told him to take care of her parents and then return to her husband's house. Dao Lang has been sobbing inconsolably since the day his wife died. Liu Han pushed the door and walked in. The couple is happy and sad. She also clearly explained the situation to her husband, advised him to be determined, pursue career and fame with peace of mind, raise children, and take care of his parents. She repaired the house, helped her husband, and then suddenly disappeared into thin air. Occasionally she would return to help her family, until everything was over and there were no more problems. Then she would travel around the country. From then on, her whereabouts were like clouds floating in the sky. Many people have proposed poems and sketches to the fairy god. They all admired the poetic talent of the mysterious and noble fairy lord. The fairy lord left West Lake again and wandered to Society Village, Nguyen. Here, the fairy princess appears as an earthly woman, marrying a scholar without a match. This person was originally the reincarnation of Dao Lang in the past. She helped her husband study, passed the exam and was admitted to the academy. The two gave birth to a son. After only a few years of reunion, the fairy god returned to heaven. The husband was a widow to raise his children, resigned from his job and returned to enjoy the trees, rivers and mountains. In heaven, the fairy god still could not forget the earthly world. She asked the Jade Emperor for Christmas again. This time, the Lord brought 2 maids straight down to Phu Cat area. Here, ordinary people are enlightened, good people are blessed, evil people are plagued. People set up temples to worship. But the king at that time, Lieu Tong, thought it was a monster and sent Vu Lan troops and wizards to eliminate it. Even God is destroyed. But then, the whole area developed an epidemic. The people thought that the God of heaven was punishing them, so they asked the king to rebuild the temple. The king had to comply and ordained her as Princess Ma Hoang. The fairy lords also used to follow the armies to conquer the underworld to eliminate the enemies. The royal court was again enlarged to the name of Che Thang Hua Du Dai Vang. 1. Temples to worship the immortals were built in places such as Song, Phu Cat, Phu Zay. Those places often hold festivals every year. People call her by a simple name, Lady Tiu, seeing her as the Lord who governs the 10 directions. She and the goddesses govern the green forest and the goddess of rivers and seas. Not sure where she is. Wherever she goes, she changes immeasurably, and the world respects her as the fairy god. Sometimes she pretends to be a beautiful girl blowing a flute under the moonlight. Sometimes she turns into an old woman leaning on a bamboo stick on the side of the road. Or sell goods at the back of the pass or visit the temple to enjoy the scenery. Anyone who makes jokes and flirts will be punished by her, causing disaster. Anyone who is in trouble and prays will receive her help. Many strange stories of the fairy lord were passed down by the people. One time, the fairy lord transformed into a beautiful water girl who sold at Ngong Pass. The prince went too far to flirt and tried to use force. The fairy god used magic to frighten him, making him crazy and insane. The king loved his son and sent soldiers to destroy the palace that the fairy god had beaten so miserably. The king prayed to the Buddha to take her back and tried to punish her, but she argued with morality, demanding that the king should not tolerate his children for doing bad things. The king had to accept and promised to confer the title, only advising the fairy princess not to be too harsh. Since then, the fairy god has also become more generous to those who accidentally commit a crime for the first time. Another time, a king passed through Tianhong village and stopped at an inn along the way. This shop was also established by the immortal lord. The king knew what was going on and was polite. The next morning when the king woke up, he saw that his old shoes had been replaced with new ones. The king was very respectful and made offerings of thanks and had a palace built for worship, called Phu Zay. The Shoe Covering Association has existed since then. The fairy lord still travels everywhere. One time, he went to Lang Sun, welcomed the embassy led by Feng Kak Kon, and wrote a letter to meet him. After that, the fairy lord again manifested an epiphany at Westlake. Along with his poet friends, Mr. Go and Mr. Lee, they also met the fairy lord here. 1. There are additional details that the king called a wizard named Tien Quan Tan to fight with Lord Lieu. This mysterious story is also recorded in the book Sung Sun Great War History. Sung is Song Mountain near Bim Sun Station, Tan Hoa. Folk songs say, "Coming to the most sacred song in Tan country," also implies mentioning the Great War that. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.